event tonight. I've got a ballast point victory at sea, and I'm here with Lane Borg. He's the owner and founder of Borg Motorsports. Does a lot of really cool suspension parts for the C6 and C5 Corvettes. We're just going to sit down and have I wouldn't call it a fireside chat, but a car-side chat here in his garage and shop tonight. So, tell us a little bit about Borg Motorsports. What's the idea behind?
So the idea behind it was I was interested in some products specific for autocrossing, racing, and pertaining to a specific rule set. Those parts didn't really exist. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking, okay, well, I'll just get them made. And when I started pricing that out, I was like, at one point I said to myself, well, shit, I could probably buy a mill for how much they want for this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, maybe I can buy a mill for how much they want for this stuff. And sure enough, it wouldn't take too much, extra investment to start getting some machines. So I started looking into that, and it ended up becoming a legitimate business.
That's awesome. How'd you get started racing? So Lane's a two-time solo national champion.
Yeah.
I believe you won the Solo Triad award.
Yeah. Yeah, each year I won the national championship. I got a triad. So that was 2012 and 2014. Mm-hmm. The car actually has 3 championships. Dave Ogburn won in 2011, which was the first event of the car.
That's was that the A Street or?
That was a stock.
Okay.
So
back before STCA.
And back when we ran DOTR comps.
the cheater tires.
Yeah.
The rest of the street touring guys hated all the stock classes for running the Hoosiers or the Purple Crack.
Purple Crack. Yeah, it was Purple Crack in 2011 when Dave won. I actually won on Goodyear's autocross tire. Full disclosure, I worked for Goodyear and was sponsored by them that year. But I ran on their DFT autocross tire at the time. 2013, I was on Hoosiers for Nats. 2014, I switched to B Street. I got the Pro and the Pro Finale, or Pro Points Championship, whatever you want to call it. And then the National Championship that year, and that was on Hankook's? Yeah, that was on Hankook's. And then made the switch to STU to have a more fun car.
So he's been last 2 seasons, 2014 and 2015. I was in
15 and 16.
You came on in 2015 in STU.
Correct. Yeah.
And you and Jojo Canales drove this car, Mineral Wells.
Yeah.
And Jojo actually, he snatched a trophy away from me by less than a second. I was the second year in a row at Mineral Wells that I've been ousted of a trophy position. The second time it was due to this guy.
That was the first event I ran the camber kit at the Delrin Bushing offset kit. Mm-hmm. So I had V8 style, Aussie supercar levels of camber, which was comical, but it worked.
No doubt. I mean, I do the same thing. What are you looking forward to this year in STU? You plan to stay in STU, I think.
Oh yeah.
We talked.
Yeah. No, I
about that.
Need a championship in STU before I leave. Mm-hmm. So this year, Dave Ogburn is driving the car with me. So he, like I mentioned, he got the first championship in the car in 2011, and he won C Street in 2013 or 14. When did the FRS move to C Street?
They came out in 2013.
I think it was 14 then. I think it was the year I won B Street, he won C Street. Either that or 15.
It was the same year that Hale sold the black STI. He bought the BRZ.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2014. I think you're right.
Yeah. Either way, we've got 2 multi-time national champions in the car. So we're hoping to get some serious development done, and hopefully take it to the 350Z. GTs, since they seem to be dominating the class. What with the
You got
GT Academy
Barbado.
guys, yeah. So there's Barbado, who had
Hype Potter.
he had a bad year last year, but he's a heavy hitter. Then there's Stewart,
Yes.
who won in 2015 and was second last year in 2016, and then obviously High Cotter. And all three of those guys are GT Academy grads, so they're all well into the Nissan, side of motorsports, and obviously very talented drivers. So it's definitely gonna take a certain amount of additional preparation and probably a little bit of luck to take it to those guys, but that's what we're hoping to do this year.
What is your favorite mod that you've done to the car? Let me rephrase that. What's the one thing that you think, everything else aside, this has completely transformed the way the car does what it does?
So those are two very different answers.
Yes.
So in terms of transforming the way the car does what it does, that would be the dampers that I've co-developed with David Whitener of Whitener Racing Shocks. So we put a ton of time into developing this damper package, and it's a special set of Bilsteins. You can buy the parts for them. They're not special parts, but nobody makes a set this short for the car, which allows it to work at a lower ride height and not have any issues with bump stops, no issues with over travel or anything like that. Still plenty of droop, never lift wheels or anything like that. And we just spent a lot of time tuning on some adjustable dampers. We had a different brand that I ran in 2013, 14. And we tuned them to the point where we were like, okay, this is the best these dampers are gonna get. We then dynoed them and started working on, okay, these are what the dyno curves are. How does it get to that level? Because there's, okay, you get, 100 pounds of compression at, 1 inch a second or whatever you're looking at. How it gets there is just as important as what that value is. And so we started looking into that. We started looking into, okay, what can we do to make it softer over bumps, but still transition really well? And that has completely transformed the car for sure. In terms of my favorite mod, don't get me wrong, that is one of my favorite mods, but the seat. The stock Corvette seats are horrid. They are an abomination that never should have been built in the first place. So I have Cobra, what are they? Suzuka GTs. So not the carbon ones, but the wider ones. And it's the same we have in our cars at work. And it's just super sportive, really sturdy. Never had an issue with it. And that just makes driving a lot easier. So, that's probably one of my more favorite mods.
That's a far cry from what I've got in the car right now. I've got a set of second-hand Corvo Forzas, I think, and they are a fiberglass fixed back.
That's what these are. They're fiberglass fixed back.
They're
nice.
I'm pretty sure there's a considerable difference between the Cobras and the Corvo, even
could be, yeah.
Sound a little bit the same. As far as a little bit, you talked about your favorite mod to the car. What's done power-wise? So the way it works with SCCA Autocross is we're limited to a set of rules, and the car can only do those things that are explicitly outlined in the rules. So for power adders, power output, especially an STU for a naturally aspirated car, there's not a whole lot aside from.
I mean, there are, but they're not groundbreaking. Essentially, it's in ST, any ST. For an NA car, you can do anything you want up to the throttle body. Throttle body has to remain stock, and MAF, any sensors in the intake have to remain stock. So that allows a cold air intake, stuff like that that most people do. And then from the heads back, so headers, cat back, you still have to have cats. There are size restrictions on that. And then a few trivial things that kind of bleed in from the street rules. So spark plugs and coils are allowed. I actually found spark plugs that make 8 rear wheel horsepower. That was one of the things I did in A-stock.
That's a huge gain.
Yeah. What is that? That's about 3%.
Yeah.
A little under 3% for my car. So yeah.
What, 40 or 50 bucks?
Oh no, I
no,
wish.
I mean,
Maybe
for
for the
me-
four bangers.
yeah, for me,
for
four-cylinder.
it's $100 for a set for the V8.
Yeah,
They
$100
are
for 8
they're
horsepower
actually
is-
OE Lamborghini plugs. It's brisk racing. I post a lot on Corvette forum. I have a build thread for the stock street car that's under my personal handle, and then I have a build thread for the STU car that's under the business handle. And I cover, you can go on there and see exactly what I have to the car, alignment, parts, all of it, just so it's kind of out in the open, so you know what the setup is. But yeah, the Brisk spark plugs, I have no affiliation with Brisk, but they're surface fire plugs, and what that means is that the spark actually travels along the insulator to the electrode. So the actual air gap is a touch smaller than what a normal, little hooked, I forget what they're called, but a normal spark plug is. But the distance along the insulator is a lot longer. However, the resistance over that gap is the same, so you end up with a larger spark, which has the same effect of increasing timing. There's nothing blocking the electrode, so the spark is exposed to the chamber. And they're actually really popular in the Mustang crowd. And I was like, well, Mustangs are V8, they make power, all the principles seem the same. Let me see if I can find some engineering background on this. And sure enough, I don't even know, it's like page 600 or 1600 in the Bosch Automotive Handbook, they talk about surface fire spark plugs and how they have potential power gains. So I tried them. The guys at my dyno shop had a bet going on over whether it would work or not. But they raced a Camaro at the time in World Challenge, and they were like, it's an awful lot like the plugs we use in the Camaro. And sure enough, there it was, 8 horsepower brand new compared to, and 8 foot-pounds compared to brand new NGKs. So brand new to brand new, back to back.
Speaking of NGK, the NGK, the one-step coulter, the LRF, I think LRF 78AX is the one-step coulter that us Subaru guys use for our cars. I'm gonna look into the Brisk plugs now for my STI and see if there's a difference. I don't know.
Lots of people seem to like them, so
I wonder
worked
if
pretty well.
There might be a difference between NA and forced induction there.
There could be.
Maybe there's a reason. We don't know. I'll test it.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't do, to be fair, when I found that, I was in stock, so you weren't allowed to do any tuning. So anything that could sort of artificially advance the timing potentially has a gain that when you can tune the car, it doesn't have the same difference because you artificially advance it, so your tune ends up, being the same net end result. I never tested that. I still run the Brisk today. They're in the car right now, so. Again, from the research I did, it seemed like there was a benefit regardless of tuning, regardless of any other compromises or situations. So that's the kind of detail I try and put into all the builds: is find every little nuance of the rule you can take advantage of.
Well, that's key, and I've seen Lane's parts. That's exactly the philosophy he takes with Borg Motorsports and his parts there. If you're curious about Borg Motorsports, it's www.borgmotorsports.com.
Easy peasy. Yep.
And then if you want to follow him on Instagram, LT Borg, is that correct?
That's my personal account. Mainly dog photos and random race car photos. Borg Motorsports is the racing side of it, the business side, and then the garage machinist is kind of my, backwoods machining. So,
yeah, awesome. Well, this is Modmen with Borg Motorsports, Lane Borg here, and we were drinking Ballast Point tonight. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and Lane, thanks a lot for the opportunity. This was a lot of
thanks for
fun.
coming on. This is good.
So we'll see you guys next week on Modmen. Cheers.